So that leads me to the second question about how gender relates to this theme of conflict, in particular sexual violence. The conflict comes in many different forms, but before I talk about it, I think it's important that we consider the way that gender is socially constructed in Western culture. To be feminine, you think of things like gentle, compassionate, passive, non-confrontational, understanding, soft-spoken, chaste. To be masculine, you think aggressive, you think tough, you think assertive, competitive, forceful, self-reliant, stoic, have a lot of sex. Those are the things you think of when you think masculine in our culture. So to me, the terms good girls and bad boys kind of fits there. These messages come from all over the place. They come from our parents and how we're raised, the toys that we're given to play with, whether or not we're encouraged or supported when we cry. There are some big differences, and you could probably notice that if you haven't already, with how little boys and little girls are treated. It comes from the media, the music that we listen to, the movies and television that we watch. It comes from our peers, the expectations and the behaviors of our friends and of our teammates. Even when we're born, the first thing that they do is to check if you're male or female. The first thing they actually do is to check if you're breathing. But after that, they check if you're male or female, and then they wrap you in a blanket. And what color are those blankets? They are pink and they are blue. And it starts right there. Now, ideas of gender do differ based on culture and the individual. And there really is no one definition of masculinity and femininity, yet there is an expectation that we all know what the rules are about what it means to be masculine, to act like a man, or to be ladylike. And if we don't know the rules, or if we choose to not abide by those rules, there are some pretty high consequences. There's a price to pay for that. People are outcast, they are ostracized, they are bullied, they are harassed, they are beaten, they are sexually assaulted, they are raped, they are murdered. If you step outside of those boxes and you don't know the rules. These gender roles do contribute to an overwhelming amount of violence and conflict, and it's often at the hands of men, like I mentioned. Men use violence to maintain dominance, to exert power and control over women and other men. In fact, 1 in 4 college women, it is estimated, will survive rape or attempted rape during their college career. And in fact, we studied that here at UC Irvine, and we found that approximately 25.1% of female UCI students who participated in a research study that we conducted had experienced sexual assault at some point in their lifetimes.
Alright, cool.
So yes, this holds true even here at UCI, here in Irvine, the safest large city in the United States. 1 in 3 women across the world has been beaten, coerced into sex, or otherwise abused in their lifetime. 1 in 3 women across the world. And this is not just a crime. Violence is not just perpetrated against women. In fact, 76% of the victims of male homicide are other men. So this violence is impacting all of us. We also see conflict on an individual or a relational level, and this is important to talk about too, because when we create such a rigid gender binary, we create restrictions about appropriate ways to act and to express yourself. So guys, we might feel a lot of pressure to drink and hook up, which is a pretty bad combination when we're talking about this idea of consent. Take control in sexual situations and not take no for an answer. Or wearing the pants in a relationship. Men also might not feel able to talk about their emotions or to engage in meaningful conversations about intimacy or about relationships. Women have it just as difficult, and in fact, women might internalize a lot of this conflict or oppression, leading to issues with self-esteem and body image. Women might also experience higher levels of fear and vulnerability, which reminds me a lot about why we're gathered here at this event tonight, Take Back the Night. Women also might not feel it's appropriate to firmly establish boundaries, to own and express their own sexuality, or to assert themselves in an abusive situation. So for all of these reasons I've talked about, conflict results from gender, both at the personal and the social level. So I want to end by talking about what we can do about it. Gender is a continuum. Gender is a spectrum. Conflict, like sexual assault, arises when we have expectations that men are supposed to act one way and women are supposed to act another. As people who obviously care about these issues, which you've demonstrated by coming out here tonight, I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to raise your awareness of gender as a continuum, to make a positive, conscious choice about your expectations of yourself and others, and to hold others accountable for attitudes and behaviors that might contribute to sexual violence. And I'm sure as you go around the booths tonight, you'll find out a lot more about that. I see so much potential looking up at all of you, and I have no doubt that you're going to go out into the world and make a difference. And I want to thank you all for that. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to our keynote speaker. Dawn Ford works on sexual assault awareness, prevention, and advocacy at the local, the national, and the international level. She is the supervisor at CSP Sexual Assault Victim Services, and Dawn serves on the Rape Prevention Advisory Board for the California Department of Public Health in Sacramento, doing some really, really exciting projects and initiatives that she's talked to me about as well. And on a more personal level, Dawn is a wonderful, wonderful woman. She is a wonderful ally with our department, and she is a great friend. And so I would like to personally thank and introduce our speaker tonight, and if you could all join me in welcoming Dawn Ford.